Do you understand me? I can't. I'm deaf. I'm deaf.
It's one of the many emotional moments from the new film Sound of Metal, out this weekend. Actor Riz Ahmed plays a musician who learns he is losing his hearing. You can catch it at select theaters in several provinces today, or stream it using the Toronto International Film Festival's digital platform. And if you want to get an early head start on your Oscar checklists, critics are saying Sound of Metal is one to watch for. Eli Glasner joins us now from Toronto. Even the trailer had me gripped, Eli. What can you tell us about the Sound of Metal?
Yeah, I agree with that kind of Oscar watch description. This is remarkable. So Riz Ahmed plays a musician named Ruben, and he lives with his girlfriend Lou, and they play together in this heavy metal band, and they have a pretty simple existence. They get up in the RV, they make breakfast, they drive to the gig, they sell a few T-shirts, they make music. You know, it's not glamorous, but they love what they do. But he's a drummer, and the ringing in his ears is starting to get worse and worse, until one morning he wakes up and essentially it's almost gone. And so he goes to see a specialist, and this is the difficult news he's told. Take a listen.
Your hearing.
We'll come back. Till then, Lou, we just keep going, okay?
No.
Lou,
No.
let's play tomorrow. Let's see what it's like, okay? I'm gonna be like a click track. You can play to me.
I mean, the problem is, John, he's kind of really created his whole identity around being a drummer. So he is in denial. He feels he has to hang on to this. He keeps going, he keeps playing, until one night in the middle of a gig, it fades away to nothing. There he is, hyperventilating in the alleyway. He's saying you can't hear anything, but inside his head, you just hear this kind of like mumble and the vibrations. The other problem is he's an addict. And that hard-fought sobriety is really chipping away here. So his girlfriend Lou finds him a rehab for deaf addicts, where Joe, this remarkable teacher played by Paul Raci, who is an actor who was raised by deaf parents, teaches Ruben not how just to be deaf, but how to be still. Take a look.
I found a place.
I think it's important that you stay here with us right now, Ruben. We're looking for a solution to this. Not this.
That's Paul Raci. He is a Vietnam vet who was raised by his parents, who are both deaf. And so he's kind of this amazing bridge to the deaf community. And he's a remarkable presence in this film.
Well, some people might recognize Ahmed from Rogue One. What do you think of him in this role?
You know, I think he's remarkable. And I had a chance to actually speak with him, and he talked about this being one of the most rewarding experiences of his career. And I think part of it is just how immersive it is, learning sign language, learning how to be a drummer. He said, you know, most parts you put on masks as an actor, but for this, it was about taking those away. And what you see on screen is a man who is whittling himself down to nothing, losing how he defined himself and then starting over. But the other part of the journey for Riz was being accepted by the deaf community. He had teachers, he was learning sign language, and he talked to me about how much deaf culture has to offer and how it's a tragedy that for a lot of us, these two worlds are separate. And he talked about what he learned. Take a look.
Something that a lot of people don't realize is that, you know, deafness is not a disability for many people. It's an identity. It's spelled with a capital D, and deaf pride is something that is real and rich and powerful. It's another way of being.
Another way of being. And the great thing about this film, Sound of Metal, is it doesn't put the deaf characters on a pedestal, and it doesn't pity them. They're just characters. They're just people. A lot of them are flawed. They're just trying to get better. Now, this film covers a whole spectrum of people who are hard of hearing in various ways. And for a reality check, I actually reached out to someone named Yat Lee in Vancouver. He was born with a congenital deformity, where essentially he was born with no ears. And like some of the characters in the film, there's a choice where he uses bone-anchored implants to hear. And so I asked him, John, what was it like to see your journey, to see that moment where someone flicks a switch and everything changes on the screen? Here's his response.
While watching this movie, I had to pause
and I had to pause because I needed time to breathe. I needed time to breathe to relax, because what I see Ruben go through is jam-packed of the emotions that I went through in years.
Yaeli was telling me those emotions include feeling bullied, feeling isolated, and that's a big part of what we see Riz Ahmed going through this journey, struggling with yourself, struggling with temptation, with physical challenges, and that search for some kind of inner peace. And, I think, John, interestingly, at this time when so many of us are being asked to stay still, stay home, and stay safe, that contemplative nature of Sound of Metal is actually a very timely and powerful choice. 4.5 stars out of 5.
Thanks for this, Eli. CBC's Eli Glasner.
When this